Well, former President Donald Trump is asking the Supreme Court to keep him on the ballot in Colorado. Now, this comes after the state's highest court ruled that he was ineligible to run for president based on the insurrectionist clause. So what happens now? Rick Newman, Yahoo Finance reporter, here to tell us a lot more. And Rick, what does happen? What do you think the reception is going to be like from the Supreme Court?
Well, the Supreme Court has not yet said, yes, we're going to take this case, and also the other one in Maine, it's probably working its way up to the Supreme Court. But it seems likely that it will, because it would just be confusing and chaotic if the Supreme Court didn't issue some kind of ruling here. Once the Supreme Court says it will take the case, I think we can expect them to act quickly. But what they're going to say, nobody knows. I mean, I've seen solid legal analysis on each side of this, saying Trump did engage in insurrection, and therefore Colorado is a solid case. Or it would be crazy for the Supreme Court to do this. They need to let the voters decide. I mean, it could go both ways. I mean, interesting, if you get into the 14th Amendment, and INAL, I'm not a lawyer, but the 14th Amendment, that's the issue here, says that a candidate only needs to engage, that word engage, in insurrection. It doesn't say that the candidate needs to be convicted of insurrection. So if you just read that in plain English, it sort of sounds like it leaves it up to the individual jurisdiction. States do have the power to set their own elections the way they choose. I mean, state constitutions are all different about how elections are held in various states. So at a certain level, states do get to decide. So, I mean, it's really interesting. And then if the Supreme Court says, no, this is invalid, then it seems like we just go ahead with the election normally. But the can of worms is if the Supreme Court somehow says, yes, states can make this determination. So then what happens? What other states might say, oh, there's an opening, so now we want to see if we can keep Trump off the ballot. It may not matter that much for the primaries because Trump is such a shoo-in. Yeah. But what about the general election? I mean, what if one or two swing states somehow keep Trump off the general election ballot? I mean, that could be decisive. So this is a huge issue.
Well, and then it makes me wonder what happens with the results of those primaries, right? We've got New Hampshire coming up. What happens to that if then SCOTUS upholds this and then we see a state where they already had a primary changed their decision here? Then what? Do they redo the election?
Nobody knows.
What do they do?
Nobody knows. So. And the other fun fact is that the ballots are being printed now. I mean, we're practically in primary season. So at one level, you think the Supreme Court almost needs to take this case and decide it by next week.
Right.
But that would be unusually fast for the Supreme Court. I don't think we know. I mean, Trump is so far ahead in the primaries that, let's say it just was Colorado and Maine and it was just the primary elections. Trump would win anyway. Right. He would be the Republican nominee anyway. But if it goes further than that, then I think, it could be all bets are off. And by the way, people say, why are these other candidates, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, why are they even running given that Trump has such a huge lead? This is one reason why they're running. I mean, candidates always want to run because they get famous on other people's money. That's, donors fund you and suddenly you're a name brand and you can make money as a commentator or whatever, selling deodorant. If Trump goes down in flames, I mean, that is why Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis are there, because there are more wild cards in this election than in any other election in memory.
A lot of questions about how everything is going to go here over the next 11 months or so. Rick, thanks so much.
Bye, guys.